Hello and welcome to the demo video for the Care Home Rota Tracker. Now, the whole purpose of the spreadsheet is to create a sheet like this. Let me show you. The whole idea is to create a sheet like this, whether it be a 4-week period or a 5-week period. And so this will be for April, regardless of where it starts. It might start end of March, wherever it might be. But essentially, we want to break them down into groups, managers, day staff, night staff, support staff, whatever categories you want to create, whatever sections you want to create. So for argument's sake, this section here is the managers, and I've broken that down into this sections called managers. This section here are called this is called the section. So this section would be day staff, and that position would be duty manager, and then that position would be senior support worker, for example. And then all of these here show the different shifts, and the different shifts are in different colors depending on which shift it actually is. And this will all make sense when I show you the data entry. But this is what we're ultimately trying to create. We're trying to create this rota for that particular month, which then shows you how many staff you need in each of those sections, how many you have in total, and how many you actually are short on any particular day. So these values here in pink are showing the dark pink, what you should have. The medium pink as in the count of each position, and then that one in light pink with the text showing how many you're short or over. So the whole idea of this is to give you this roster so you can see where you're short or over. You can see how many hours each person's working in each given month, how many hours a week, etc. And it's all nicely laid out and something that you can save as a PDF or print. So this is the whole objective of this. But now we've had to create this elaborate spreadsheet to be able to, give you the option to edit these, and also to be able to actually create rotas for each person and to be able to edit those and show where someone's off sick and all the rest of it. So let me show you how to do this. But I wanted to show you that first up so that the rest of the spreadsheet, when I'm telling you how the data gets entered, will make sense. The first sheet is the intro and setup. Effectively, essentially what you want to do is you want to get your 12 monthly periods there over the year. So you want to be able to say, what is April? When's the start date? When's the end date? But instead of filling in all the dates and then checking they're all on a Monday or a Sunday or whatever, I've got the spreadsheet to do this automatically, and you've got override options. So at the top here, what you do is you say, well, I want the start month to be in April, please. And I want the start year to be 2024. Payday is on the 28th. You can put which day it is, and then you can say how many weeks prior. So in other words, how many weeks prior to that payday do you actually want to have the previous year end? So in other words, it's almost like padding after payday, so before payday, sorry, as it were. So here you'll see the periods are ending roughly 21st, 23rd, whatever. It's 1 week before, but they obviously they go in weeks and everything calculates. So this is just padding. If you say, for example, 0, then it brings them from the 1st to the 28th and closer on. This just gives a week padding in before. And then you can also say which week does it end on. So your weeks run from Monday to Sunday, then you put in Sunday and it goes, okay, Sunday is the end of the week. So now it knows. So now it starts them all on a Monday, ends on a Sunday. And that should then give you your year layout, as it were. You might find I've added extra padding here for Christmas, for pay date in December, etc. You may say, well, actually, no, we pay them on the 26th or 28th or whatever it is. You can see some of them have changed to 27th because of the way that the weeks have worked, because they were on a weekend potentially to pay. You can come in and you can overwrite the pay dates. The pay dates don't really make much of a difference to the spreadsheet, but they do. They are shown in other places, so you may want to just update those. So, for example, if you say, well, these people are paid on the 28th of September, even if it is a holiday or a weekend, for example, you can just come in and put 28th and it will update it to the 28th of September. The other thing is you can also say, well, hold on a second, the spreadsheet's broken this down into 4, 5, 4, 5. I actually want this one to be a 5-week and this one to be a 4-week. Then you can just come there and change that to a 5-week and that to a 4-week. Just make sure that they all add up. If this goes too far and doesn't fit in the spreadsheet, it'll flag up with an alert. So you can override those once you're done. But what I would suggest doing is doing these setups first, getting bulk of it done, and then just tweaking the number of weeks over here if need be. Once these 12 periods are set up and you've got the correct dates that you want and you're happy with that, then you can come down to the bottom here. This you only need to use if there are bank holidays. So the spreadsheet will calculate the normal bank holidays. You can ignore that. That's fine for the UK, but it won't add in any new ones. So, for example, if we have we have the King's coronation or the Queen Jubilee or whatever, where we have an extra bank holiday, you can add new ones in here, up to 3 a year. And these ones, you can actually change bank holidays. So, for example, if they said, well, you know, this bank holiday is normally on a Friday, but we can have another bank holiday on the Friday, and this one's going to move to the Thursday. If you put the original date of the bank holiday, so there should have been one on the 1st of January. Yep, there we go. So that gives a tick to go, yes, I found one on the 1st of January 2024. If for some reason that's changed to the 2nd of January, then you can just do that. And what that does is it changes it one from the 1st to the 2nd. So as I said, if everything runs as normal, just ignore that. It should calculate all the UK bank holidays as normal. So that is the setup page. The next one is the settings as far as the roles and the positions and all the rest of it. So we've got the different sections, as I said, which show on that PDF, the managers and the day staff and the night staff and what have you. So you can name up to 6 different sections of that PDF. And you can give it a name. I've given it managers, day staff, night staff, housekeeping. You can add in whichever ones you want, change these. And then when you're done, you can select which color you want it to be. So you can colorize each of them. If you color it, then it gives it those colors on the report. So you can just select which color it is and the sections. Just don't put in any duplicates sections that will flag up. And the next thing is it wants to know whether it's tracked. So for example, if you say, well, we like to have a manager, sometimes we have 2, but there's no set number of managers that need to be on, then you can just uncheck the manager one and it won't actually check for managers. But if you say, for example, day staff, you need to track how many day staff there are, then you select the tick, which then tracks it. And once you've done that, you put in how many staff you need as a default. You can change it. I'll get to that in a minute. But as a default, what's the normal daily number that you need, and put that value in. And that will then initially look for night staff to have 4 people and day staff to have 4 people every single day of the year. I'll get to the changes in a minute, but that's how you set it up. This here is the name of the house. This just identifies the house or the location, so that you can you know, if you're running multiple spreadsheets, you know who they're for. The positions, these are positions that fall within these sections. So you can name these positions. How many? I've got 10 of them. You can name the different positions that you've got within that, and then you select which section they're in. So, for example, managers will be under managers. You may have senior support workers. You may have support workers. You may have someone else all under night staff, however the case might be. So you can create these positions for people and then put them under a particular section. Once you've done that, you can then create shifts. So I've got all these shifts that you can create. I mean, I've got up to 20 different shifts. So you can put the shift name in, the number of hours, and then select a color. So you've got green, yellow, red, 1, 2, 3, 4, light, dark, medium, etc. So you can select the different colors for each shift. And you can fill those up if you want to with all the different shifts and the default hours that they have. All of these settings you can set up, and then you're going to go and select those later on. So obviously you want to set this up beforehand so that you can select them on the other sheets. If you then come back here and change it, then when you go back to these other sheets, they're going to flag up in red because they can't find them. So these are the shifts. And then lastly, the events. Now, events, it might not be the correct terminology, but what this means is something that's changed from the shift. So annual leave or sickness, so if they're going to go training or if they're shadowing or whatever the case might be. Anything that's not a normal shift. And then you can say, so you can name the event, and then it asks for the action with the hours. You can say, what do you want to do? Do you want to zero them or keep them? So for example, if it's annual leave and they were supposed to be working 8 hours and you want to know that they've taken 8 hours of annual leave, then you can select keep, because then it still shows the number of hours, even though it marks it as annual leave. Or you can say zero it. So for example, sick leave. So if they're supposed to work 8 hours, but they didn't, and you say zero, then on that day it says 0 hours work, but it attributes it to sick leave. So you can decide whether to keep the hours or zero them. And then the color, again, just to colorize the cell, which will make sense later on when we get to the actions. So that's the setup. You might want to watch the section again once you've looked at the rest of the spreadsheet and you understand how that report kind of comes together. But hopefully that makes sense. And this is just to set up all the different options that you're going to require. Then the main sheet to enter the staff is over here, and it's relatively straightforward once you've set it up. You enter a staff name. You can't have exactly the same name twice. You can enter the staff name, select which position they are. So if you get a new staff member, obviously the name wouldn't be new, but you could put the name in. You can select, well, they're going to be housekeeping, for example, and housekeepers. What's their default shift? So you might say, well, the default shift is shift housekeeping 4, and the second shift housekeeping 5, whatever those might be. You've obviously named them on the settings tab already. So you can give them 2 different shifts that they could work. And then the start and end date, this is their employment start and end date, and this is the rota start and end date. The reason I've got these in is just so that the spreadsheet can then flag up if you try and say, for example, this person changed the shift on the 1st of January, but they only started working the 1st of February, it'll flag up for you to tell you, well, hold on, this isn't correct. The rota start and end date are also just to determine when this rota starts and when this rota ends. The one thing you need to be aware of, though, is that if the person starts working before this schedule ends and ends working afterwards, then you don't have to bother filling these in. You only really need to put them in if it happens during the time, and it'll explain. You'll be able to put the start and end in so that it knows when to start and end that rota. And then all you do is you give it a standard 2-week rota, week 1 and week 2, and you can come in here and you can put in when that person works. So for example, if on the Monday in week 1 they work shift 1, which is the default, which is housekeeping 4, and then they had a day's break, and then they worked shift 2, and then they had a day's break, and then they worked shift 1, etc. You can fill in how they do, what their process is, 1 being this default shift and 2 being the secondary shift. And you can fill that in for the 2-week period. And as you can see, it tallies up their weekly hours. If you want to overwrite that, you can overwrite it. Over here, maybe 1 shift you put down as a full shift, but they work a few hours less. You can just come and overwrite that weekly number over here if you need to. Otherwise, you can use the one that is calculated. I'm just going to take them out for now because they weren't in the original one, and I don't want to mess about with the reporting. But that's how you can enter the people. You can scroll down and you can enter up to 500 different staff, and you can create those rota, the rota for each one of them. The only anomaly here is if you've got someone who's working 2 different positions, you will have to enter their name twice. Maybe enter Richard with brackets, position 1 or position 2, whatever, in brackets, so you know which one's which. But you will have to enter them individually. The spreadsheet can't handle breaking it down any further than that. So this is where you enter the staff and all their shifts, and that then creates their work pattern throughout the entire year because it works on this 2-week rotation. Now you're asking, well, hold on a second, that's all great, but what if someone changes something? And then I'll get to that in a minute, but let me first get to those daily targets. Where we enter the daily targets and the settings, here, how many different ones you want to you want per day. If you go to the daily targets, it actually lays it out here for you. So what it's done is it's listed every single day as you scroll down of that period that we've entered. And it says day staff 4, night staff 4, because that's the default. Let's just say, for example, 1st of April, you actually think, well, today we don't need as many staff. Maybe some of the people weren't there. Maybe there was an event on, whatever the case might be. Maybe you needed more staff. Maybe you needed fewer staff. If you, for example, you needed 5 staff that day, you can just go and go day staff. We need 5 that day. and then that updates that individual day. So the settings have done the default is for all of them, and you can come and do individual days rather than you filling in 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. It's done all of that. You can just come and edit those that have changed so that it then updates on the report. It's a similar thing with the events and rota changes, but this one's slightly different in the sense that you don't just fill it in a column, you actually come and enter any changes. So what you would do then is if on a particular day, you can enter the date, whichever date it might be that that person, that this change has occurred. You can select the person, and the spreadsheet already knows what their default shift was for that day. And then you can come in and you can either do a shift change. So you can either say, well, actually, they were supposed to do whatever shift, but they actually did a night shift instead. And then this will then look at the spreadsheet, see which shift they ought to have done, and replace it with the one you've said that they have actually done. Alternatively, you can select an event like annual leave or sickness or training or shadowing, whatever, and then that will either add it onto their rota on that day if there was nothing there, or it will actually replace what they had on that day if there was something there. The other thing are the shown hours. Now, as we said, if they were supposed to work 8 hours in a shift on a day, it will say 8 hours or 12 hours or whatever it might be. If you set on the settings to 0, then it'll say 0 hours. But if you actually want to override all of that and go, well, actually, they should have worked a 12-hour shift. They ended up doing a different shift, which should have also been 12 hours, but they actually only work 10 hours, then you can come here and you can actually just show the hours and overwrite what you need to overwrite. So if you don't need to, you can leave it. If you need to, you can change the hours and you can say, well, that was only 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever the case might be. And then you can make some notes. The notes don't go anywhere, but they're here for your reference if you want to come back and consult this. So this not only serves as almost like a change log of what's happened and what's different to the normal shift, but that will then also affect your reporting and your monthly view. So we've been through the events and rota changes, we've been through the staff, we've been through the daily targets, and we've been through the settings and the intro and setup. So it's just the green tabs left. The green tabs are all automatically generated. You might just need to make 1 or 2 selections, but it all comes from these sheets. As you can see, I forgot to mention, it actually shows you what the default shift was for that particular day and what the new text is. So this one beforehand, on the 25th of March, Richard was supposed to do a night shift, but he didn't. He was on annual leave and it's 12 hours. So it gives you the details here of what's been changed, what it's changed to, and the hours. So you know what you need to overwrite, and you can double check that it's all correct there once you're done. Then the green tabs are calculated. So let's go through these and have a look at what they do. The monthly view is the one I showed you right at the beginning, which I'll show you again. So we select a month, it populates and it shows all the different sections, all the different positions, all the different people, and which shift they're working and how many hours and hours a week. And then these ones in pink show you how many staff you should have had in each of the sections, how many you had, and how many you short. So you can check this out for your report. You can save this and you can print it off and you can do it as a PDF or whatever else you need to do. Not only that, but it also gives you a dashboard. Now, the dashboard overview is broken up into sections. I'll get to this in a minute. Here we've got all the different alerts. So for example, if you were to go into the events and changes and 6th of April, let's just put something in. And then it asks you for these cells that you need to fill in because it doesn't know who the person is and it's asking for those cells. If you go back to the dashboard, it now says that there are 4 alerts. That just means that there's data that's required that you haven't actually filled in yet. Or if you put something in that's incorrect, that yellow will go away in a second. If you put something in that's incorrect, then it flags up as a red alert. So if all of those are okay, then it means your data is all up to date from what you filled in. This gives you a breakdown per month as to how many different night staff, day staff, housekeeping managers, etc. you've had, so you can kind of gauge as to what your staff content looks like over the month. This one here gives you a breakdown of all the events, so how many days, sick leave and shadow training and all the rest, what's the breakdown of all those events. And this one gives you a breakdown overall of all your night staff, day staff, etc. So these are just overviews, graph overviews that you can see. This section to the right here is possibly one of the most important things because what it does is it gives you those different sections that you've allocated. It tells you whether you're tracking them, and those that you are tracking, it'll give you the number per month. So this is July, that's the 24th of July up 24th of June, sorry, up to 21st of July. That's the month we're taking for July. It's 4 weeks long, and here we can see how many day staff and night staff we short each day. Same for August, same for September. So this section is a rolling 3 months. Because I'm shooting the video in July, it's got July 1st and it shows August and September. If I wanted to see, for example, January, I could actually, or April, I could actually just select April, and then it shows me April, May, and June. So you can either override it, or you can just leave that blank and it'll give you the most current months. But you can see 3 months worth of stuff here as to where you're actually short of staff on which days. And I think that's going to prove to be quite important. Your monthly report and individual report are very, very similar, as you can see. I won't go through it in too much detail, but just to say that these are the shifts. This section in the middle here is the gray, that's for the whole year. And this here is for the selected month, this white section on the end. So, for example, on the overall report, let's start with that one. It's easier. You can just select a month. And then this one tells you the month, and this one shows the overall. So you can see how many shifts, how many day shifts did I have? 234 over the year, 22 in that month. How many actual, how many hours used? What was the shift difference? So here we can see, here, for example, we've lost one night shift because I changed it on the change log. So we've lost one night shift. So you can see the difference as well. And if you scroll down, you can see the different events and how many they've had. And here we can see the number of changes or events in the selected month, which there aren't in this case. So that is the overall report. The individual report shows the same thing, but this time you select a month and you select a person, and then it shows you that person's overall. Instead of the number allocated, what it does is it shows you which is their default and which is the secondary shift. And then it shows you how many, the count, the actual, etc. for the whole year. So you can see how many have changed, how many they've done, how many hours they've done in each shift, etc. over the year. And you can also see the values for that month. Let's pick one of the ones where there is a change. Just go and have a look and see when I did a change. I did change Richard in March. In April, there we go. So you've got the changes in there, and yeah, it was in March, but it was obviously fell in April. That's why it was confusing. So yeah, the changes will show what you've got at the bottom of that report. So those two reports update individually. All you have to do is fill in those two options, and on the report, you just have to select the month. So yeah, quite a large spreadsheet in terms of the formulas that it's doing. It's relatively easy to use, but it's got to be done properly. Otherwise, it's not going to, you can overlook stuff and you can make mistakes if you're not careful. So I hope that demo video explains everything to you, and I hope that that's clear. Do give it a test and see if it works for you. Test it out. I think the demo version is just limited to the number of staff you have. So put a few in, test it out, make sure it does everything that you need to do. And then if it does, go for it. And if you have purchases, I do wish you all the best with the spreadsheet. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.